Sandy Says Read. Welcome to the channel. This evening we're going to do a review and quick discussion of The Ghost of Christmas Past by Rhys Bowen. I want to encourage you to give this a thumbs up right now because this machine has already locked up. This is like take 3 because this machine is locking up. So thumbs up just in case I have to dive out of this quickly. All right, we're going to do the specs for this. The Ghost of Christmas Past by Rhys Bowen. This is a Molly Murphy mystery. It was published in 2017 by St. Martin's Press, but it's a Minotaur Books imprint. This version is 264 pages, and like I said, it takes place over Christmas 1906. And boy, that time period makes this a weird book to read. I mean, I want you to look at this cover one more time. Look at the house in the background. Just look at the style of that. Look at what Molly is wearing and that muff that she has her hands in. Look at her hat. Everything about this cover, the sort of like watercolor nature of it, everything about this book just feels older than 2017. I mean, even the almost linen feel of the pages, the style of the writing, the syntax, everything about this book feels older than 2017 to me when I was reading it. And I think that is, kudos to Rhys Bowen. I think that is a credit to her because she did such a good job of pulling me back in time, telling me this story. All right. There are 16 books in the Molly Murphy mystery series before this one. So I was jumping into Molly's life kind of late in the game, I do believe. I believe this is book number 17 in the series because I meet her when she's already married. She's married to Captain Sullivan, who is a police detective. She has returned early with their son, or returned before him with their son to New York. She's come home at Christmas time, just before Christmas, to their house, which is cold and dark and locked up, of course, because they haven't been there for a while. And she has come home sad. She has just recently had a miscarriage. And her doctor, in 1906 fashion, has told her, don't worry about it, you'll have another. So she's very sad, she's depressed, her doctor doesn't understand her, and she's worried that she might not be able to have another child after this miscarriage. So she's despondent in this way. So she's had that loss. She's also suffered a loss of belongings and her keepsakes and heirlooms or whatnot. Her dresses, her clothing, things that belong to her, she has lost in a fire, I believe in the earthquake in San Francisco just recently. So she's had that loss as well. She's also about to experience a loss, or believe she's about to experience the loss of a young lady that she has welcomed into her home and into her life, the character named Bridie. That's what I'm calling her. That's how I pronounce the name. Bridie is a young lady who's, I get the impression she's 13 years old, 12 or 13 years old. She was adopted, not officially adopted, but brought into Molly's life, into Molly's family when she was a little girl. Bridie's father lost his wife and had no money, was an alcoholic. So he and his son went to work on the Panama Canal, make some money. They've been ill, they've gone through illness, and they've survived it, and they've made a fortune, I guess, down there working on the Panama Canal. And they have decided, the father has decided he's going to come back, get Bridie, take her home to Ireland, and this is going to be another loss for Molly, and she's very sad about this as well. So there are just these losses piling up, and she's depressed, she's despondent. So she's come home and she's thinking, gosh, I have to pretend to be happy for my friends. But it's Christmas time. I'll do it. I'll suck it up. I'll pretend to be happy. It'll be great. But these two friends who live across the street from her, they're going to be the people who are going to be cheering her up, right? Only she learns they're not going to be there for Christmas after all. They tell her, oh, we were just packing up because we're headed out for Christmas. They're going somewhere else. And she's like, doggone it, I can't catch a break. Well, about this time, her husband comes home and he's like, my house is all cold. What's going on over there? So we learned that her husband, Daniel Sullivan, is not real fond of these ladies across the street. And throughout the book, Rhys Bowen never tells us these women are a lesbian couple. But we get that idea. And we also get the idea that Daniel doesn't quite approve of them. Although Molly is like, they're my friends. They're my great friends. They take care of me. We're like sisters. So she has no problem with their relationship. But I get the impression that Daniel really does. And I think it's more than just they are suffragists and he sees them as like a threat to modern society, right? They're these wild women who are too empowered for his tastes, right? And that's really the way Daniel treats them. They're too empowered. They have crazy parties. They have friends who are, dangerous in this time. And even when Molly and Daniel and their son are invited to the Greenbrier estate, and they go there for Christmas, they go there for the holidays, even when they're invited there are, parties at this lodge across the way, and he sees the women who go to these parties as dangerous to society. They're too worldly, too intelligent. They're suffragists. They're going to get the right to vote. They're trying to get the right to vote, and Daniel sees that as going to upset the apple cart, right? And it's as if at some point in the book, it's as if he has this just change. He just starts accepting the women. It's kind of weird. It just changes. He just is okay with them all of a sudden. And I don't know what caused that. I don't know where that happened, how that happened. It just happened. Someone else who has read the book might be able to clue me in on that. But it's good that it happens because his wife is also opinionated. Molly is opinionated and headstrong and smart and witty. She used to have a detective agency. I mean, the Molly Murphy mystery series exists because Molly Murphy continues to be in her own way, a detective. Because this is set in 1906, when she got married to a police detective, she gave up her career. She gave up the detective business because she felt that it would be a conflict of interest for her to be solving mysteries alongside her husband, a police detective, solving mysteries. She saw that as a conflict. So she gave up her career to take care of her family. Which, okay, that's that. And that's one of the reasons why, as I was reading this book, I felt like I was reading something from a different era. It didn't feel like I was reading something that was published in 2017. It felt older. It felt like I was immersed in an older era book. Rhys Bowen did such a good job with everything about this book that I felt like I was reading something that was further back in time than 2017. It just felt older to me. It just felt older. I wonder, hold please, you guys, I'm saying all of this. I wonder if this was first published in 2017 is what it says. Okay. First edition, November 2017. Okay. I was wondering if I was going to look in there and see that it was originally published in 1970. Okay, no. And just this version was. Okay, anyway, let me see if I can tell you guys a little bit about the mystery plot that takes place in here without giving away too many spoilers. I don't want to spoil it for you because it's really intriguing the way all the breadcrumbs start to come together and you start to see the mystery pile up, and by the time you get to the aha moment, you're like, yeah, I totally see this. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to spoil it for you because I want you to read this. I hope everyone out there reads this book and enjoys it as much as I did. The mystery is at the Greenbrier estate, we have Winnie and Cedric, who have been married for 11, 12 years, and their daughter went missing one Christmas 10 years ago. And Winnie has never gotten over that. Of course not. She's sad. I mean, her daughter was like a toddler and went out into the snowy night and was gone. And the next morning, everyone gets up and the daughter is gone. She's not in her bed. She's not in her crib. They can't find her. And folks went looking for her and she couldn't be found. There was no ransom note ever came. So we don't know if she was kidnapped. We don't know what came of this child. And so for 10 years, Winnie has wondered. Cedric and Winnie have wondered whatever happened to their kid. And it's it's almost debilitating for Winnie on the night of the anniversary night of her child's disappearance. I mean, she has to go to bed. She can't be around people. She has a headache. She goes to bed. And then the next day she's like, okay, I'm a little better now. But this is a hardship for her. This is a terrible thing for her. Of course. But Winnie, she goes through an arc. She has a character arc where she comes into her own and she becomes a stronger woman in this book. There are multiple female characters in this story who they look like maybe they are, this frail, pretty flower. And then you see that they have a backbone, they have spine, they have gumption, and they stand up for themselves. And we see that happen to several of the characters in this book, and it's awesome when you see it. And maybe that's because because it's set in 1906, and you see these women who are just, I don't know, they're pawns in the game of life. And so when they step up to be queens, it's amazing. And you go, yeah, good. And I enjoyed that part of the story too. Okay, so Molly Murphy, she wants to solve the mystery of what happened to this little girl. The little girl's name is Charlotte, and she can't believe that a little child would have gotten up in the middle of the night, put on her own shoes, put on her own coat, buttoned it up, and walked out of the house. Someone had to have helped her, and she believes this in her soul. So she's going to solve this mystery, and the pieces start to come together that, yes, someone must have helped the child, and who saw what, and what happened when, and there was a gardener who died like a night later, and just weird things like that happened. And then Great Aunt Clara, who lives there in the Greenbrier estate too, she's starting to lose her faculties a bit. She's much older. She's like turning 100 one of these days, soon. So she's much older, and she sees Molly and Daniel, who have come to the house, and she looks at Daniel like, oh, hey, it's been a long time since I've seen you. She thinks that he is Cedric's old friend, come back to visit. She looks at Molly and thinks that she is Winnie's sister, Lizzie, who's been gone for a long time. Lizzie, who was kicked out of the house for not marrying the man her father told her to marry. Okay? There's all these little pieces of the puzzle and intrigues that are starting to come together. Well, Aunt Clara remembers little bits and pieces kind of at random. Aunt Clara is a threat to someone because Aunt Clara ends up dead. Yeah, she dies in her sleep. Or does she? Molly thinks it's kind of weird that Aunt Clara ends up dead. So Molly sneaks into Aunt Clara's room and picks up her eyelid and looks, and yep, there's petechial hemorrhaging, right? Only she doesn't call it that. It's pink. She's got little pink splotches in her eyes, so she's been suffocated. And Molly's like, oh my gosh, she's been murdered. What's weird is that she was murdered on the morning of Christmas, okay? So Christmas Eve, everyone goes to bed. Christmas morning, Aunt Clara doesn't come down. So a servant goes up to check on her. Lo and behold, she's dead. And they just leave her lie there. They don't call for a police officer. They don't call for the mortuary person to come in. They leave her laying there because it's Christmas Day and they don't think anyone would come on Christmas Day. Good heavens. So she lays there until the next day. The next day, the mortuary person comes and like, oh yeah, she's dead. They take her away. No one checks. No one looks. So Molly and her husband, the police captain, know that something has gone amiss. They know that she's been suffocated. They know this, but they don't want to say anything to anybody because someone in the house is dangerous, obviously. But they don't want to tell anyone. So I'm reading this thinking, oh my gosh, they're not going to do anything. He's a police captain and he's not going to do anything. It was getting unnerving. So more intrigue happens, more interesting things happen. We have young characters who we start to question. It's intriguing. It's fantastic. It's great when there's a fire in the house. When the fire happens, Molly is able to implicate someone. I'm not going to tell you who because I want you to read the story, but when she's able to implicate them and force them to confess something, it's great. It's fantastic. Aunt Clara was right in thinking that a friend was involved in stuff. I mean, it's great. It's a great, great story. I enjoyed it very much. I can highly recommend The Ghost of Christmas Past. If you're looking for a Christmas story to read this holiday season, I can recommend The Ghost of Christmas Past by Rhys Bowen. You don't have to be familiar with all 16 of the Molly Murphy mystery stories that came before it. You can read this one as a standalone. I did, and I enjoyed it a lot. I did, and I wasn't lost. It worked. It worked. Now, I hope that wasn't too rambling. I was trying not to give away spoilers. But it's a good story. Very good story. I really like the way the mystery came together. It was wonderful. Okay, you know that in these reviews, I like to read a snippet to give you a flavor of the writer's writing. So I'm going to do that on page 71. Because, like I told you, the syntax, everything about this story just felt like we were in an earlier time period. Everything about it. So, here we go. This is when Molly and one of the aunts has gone to a party at the lodge nearby. And this is a party that's full of empowered women. Okay, these are all suffragists. These are women who want to get the right to vote. They want to improve their station in life. And so here we go. All right. She said no more, and we continued the journey in silence while the sleigh bells jingled on the horses' harness. While we had been in conversation, we had turned out of the driveway and onto the road. The horses strained to take us up a steep little hill, but soon we saw lights ahead and turned into another gateway. This house was less grand, but looked instantly more friendly, with lights shining out from all the windows over the snow. A line of sleighs and carriages was pulling up outside the front portico. Servants stood ready to help us out and aid us up the steps and into a warm front hall. There was music coming from a back room, but we had our outer garments removed and were ushered into a room at the front of the house. A large Christmas tree stood in the window with presents piled at its base. A fire was blazing in the hearth, and the room felt quite toasty. I looked around at the guests, who were already standing around in groups, chatting away, and noticed they were all women. Daniel would not approve, I thought with a smile. Just lovely descriptions. It's well done. Everything about this book transported me into a different era. And then there was this mystery that went in, and nicely done. There were no cell phones. There was no taking a picture with something in the background that caught someone's eye to solve the mystery. There's no GPS to track this kid. It was all a good mystery from 1906. Well done. I enjoyed it very much. It's great. You guys, thumbs up for 1906 Christmas. Yay. Yeah, I highly recommend it. Please follow along. Please subscribe to the channel. Click the bell notification icon so that you are notified each time I do something random, different, or a review here on the channel. Thanks so much for tuning in.